Good morning. I usually say good afternoon because I start these at 12 o'clock. But my name is Dale Rodriguez, and this is Flabonga Monthrothacube. Yes, got the name of the show right. And with me today, I've got Della Hudson. Hey, Della. How's it going?
Hello.
Thank you for joining me.
Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, I'll start with the nice, easy questions. Where are you based?
At the moment, I'm in sunny, or not so sunny, Western-super-Mare.
Or Western Supermud, as I call it.
Yes, it is. We have one of the highest tidal reaches in the world. So when the tide goes out, it really does go out.
And I realised I haven't asked you a very, very important question. Who are you and what do you do?
Who am I? Well, I'm the founder of 4 businesses, the author of 3 books, and the mother of 2 teenagers. Because 3 teenagers would be absolutely ludicrous.
Fair enough. And what you say? How many businesses did you say? Did you say 3 businesses? 4 businesses?
3 at the moment, but 4 in total. I exited the first one.
Oh, wow. So when I ask what do you do, is that varied, or have the businesses all been similar in nature?
It's always the most complicated question you can ask. So the first one was an accountancy practice. Like many women, when I became a mother, I wanted to have it all and somehow juggle work and family. I couldn't find flexible working, so I decided to set up on my own, doing a few sets of accounts from the kitchen table. And because my background was in running businesses, you do the right things and the business grows. So I ended up with a small but successful accountancy practice, which I sold in 2017, and set up some consultancy instead. So I speak, I write, I coach accountants and business owners. And then 2020, COVID hit. So a lot of accountants appeared to go AWOL, just as their business clients needed maximum support. And I thought, I can do this in my sleep. So I set up Minerva Accountants. So I now had 2 current businesses and one I'd sold. And then last month, I set up Minerva Technology, which is going to make apps for accountants. So there we go, 3 businesses at the moment, and all fairly accidental. Have we lost you, Dale? I'm going to keep talking then. Talking about myself. I know Dale always asks what is somebody's favourite biscuit. So if you haven't heard it before, then think about what your favourite biscuit, not your favourite biscuit, which biscuit would you be like? So he caught me out with it at an ICB dinner, was the first time we met, and he got the whole table chatting by discussing what sort of biscuits we were like. And I'm a fairly dull custard cream, and nice to see you back, Dale. Just talking about which biscuit I'm like.
I am really sorry about that. There were some technical difficulties. My internet just disappeared. Thank you for holding down the fort. I appreciate that.
No, that's absolutely fine, and good to have you back. It's been a relief.
I'm very sorry. Thank you. Sorry. So I asked you about your businesses, and you said your previous business, your first business you sold, was an accounting practice. Would you mind repeating that again? I'm very sorry.
No, that's fine. So the first accountancy business was sold in 2017, and then I set up a consultancy business to offer speaking, writing, and coaching for accountants and other business owners. And then COVID hit, and a lot of accountants appeared to go AWOL. So I decided to set up another accountancy practice in order to help them. So Minerva Accountants was born, entirely based in the cloud. We all work remotely from home, and everything is done online using I would say the latest technology. I do like to be fairly forward in technology, but there's so much coming out, it would be daft to say I have the latest. And then last month, I set up a technology business, Minerva Technology, to make apps, or one particular app initially for accountants.
Is the app already in the market?
Not yet. We are still working on it.
Is it a secret?
No. I have screenshots. I'm happy to be talking about it. But you know, on websites, people have all those calculators so that clients can work out, you know, payslip things, or should they be a limited company or shouldn't they? Well, we thought it would be go one better and let people have that in their pockets on their phones. So we're building an app initially for our own clients and someone to have, and thought we would, it's something that other accountants would like to buy for their clients. So it will be available when we've ironed out all the hitches and so on. It's a really interesting process. And apparently I'm not a very good business analyst in describing what I want.
As a former web developer, I can imagine. I'm used to people coming to me with their dreams and hopes, suggesting on how to build it, and that miscommunication happening. And yeah, I can see that happening. Why the name Minerva?
Minerva is the goddess of wisdom, and the Roman goddess of wisdom, and we're just down the road from Bath, where there's a lot of Roman interest. So, and I couldn't think of anything more interesting.
No, that's cool. That's cool. All right, I'm going to ask you a silly question just to mix it up. If you could eat one meat for the rest of your life, forsaking all others, what meat would you eat?
Chicken.
Why?
It is my favourite.
Why the chickens? What have they ever done to you?
I know, poor defenceless little things. Yes. Well, I like eggs as well, which is even worse. Am I a child killer?
I was going to make a comment, but I thought it's too graphic for LinkedIn, so I won't. All right. So you're based in the west of the country. Have you always lived in that area, or been elsewhere?
No, I haven't. I was born in Germany and I've grown up around the world, and I settled down here back in 2010.
Okay.
So my family are from the area, and it sort of, in some ways, it was like coming back home, but now I sort of just base myself here and travel around a lot.
Any particular reason for the constant moving?
My father was in the army, so we moved home every 6 months to a year. I lived in 25 different places by the time I turned 18.
Wow.
As a result, I speak 5 languages.
That's incredible. Are you fully fluent in all 5?
No, not anymore. French is probably my best. It's where I've lived most recently. My daughter was born there. We lived there for 4 years.
That's cool. So wait, so French, what are the other 4 languages? Oh, English, obviously.
Yeah, English, French, Spanish, German, Italian, mainly because I did Latin at school. So you pick up Italian fairly quickly when you work for an Italian company.
I did not know you worked for an Italian company. I should have done more review of your LinkedIn profile. My apologies.
I've worked for all sorts of multinationals in the past. So French-owned Group Schneider, Italian-owned Pirelli, and British-owned Blue Circle, unless it's changed hands. Who else have I worked with? I think that's probably it. Oh, ABB, who at the time were, what were they? Swedish and Swiss or something.
Do you think the core or base nationality of a company affects its culture?
Yes, it does. However, it's obviously something I've looked into. Local culture prevails over company culture.
Really? So you could have a Nordic country with Nordic influence, but if they've got a London office, it'll be more Londonish.
Yes. Yeah.
Of the different international companies you work for or nationalities you've worked with, do you have a preference in business style? I can share mine first if you'd like.
Go on, you talk for a change.
I love working with Dutch people.
Okay.
Generally speaking, I find all the Dutch people I've worked with, this is just, anecdotal, generally pretty direct, and quite a dry sense of humor, which I like. But when it comes to doing business and transacting, it's kind of like, from a sales perspective, do you want to need this product? Yes or no? that's it, and it's kind of like it's done. Whereas I find in the UK we can be, under the guise of politeness, a little bit wishy-washy, which
Yes.
is kind of annoying. And I think we're one of the few countries in the world that do it that way. Like other nations get annoyed at how we do business. But yeah, so my answer: I like working with Dutch people. They're great.
I was going to say German for pretty much the same reasons. I like it. You know, they're very direct.
Hmm.
Sometimes you sort of have to do a step back and remember it's a cultural difference. It's not.
100%.
But it's great. It's no nonsense. They work hard, but they also play hard, which is good.
Okay, cool. I'm glad we're kind of in agreement. I mean, Dutch and German culture are very similar. I
Yeah.
won't say the same because I know that will annoy a lot of people. I'm not going to do that, but they're very similar in that regard. Of all the companies, all the big companies you work for, which one was your favorite, and why?
Ooh, I've enjoyed them all in different ways. I like the variety of cultures and doing things and that. But I've usually been in the UK subsidiary of a bigger organisation, which is a bit like running your own business, where you have to be pretty good at everything, but you can call in resources from head office, or as a small business, you pay an expert to come in and do the expert stuff, but you need to be able to do a fair bit of everything yourself. Most of my roles are, though normally sort of financial controller, finance director, I got to, because part of my role wasn't just the finance bit, it was running the company.
Yeah.
I've learned so much about sales, marketing. Yeah, I've been responsible for quality, for purchasing, for site maintenance, for HR.
Okay. A lot of stuff.
So much. And yeah, environmental audit as well came under my remit many years ago, before it became
A popular thing.
I was going to say a fashionable thing, but that sounds as I'm putting it down. I'm glad it's become a fashionable thing, because I really do think we should be doing something, but it's also a bit of a bandwagon that people jump on. But
Wow.
as long as they're on it, I'm happy.
That's kind of how I feel about AI right now. Don't get me wrong, it's
Yes,
important and it's a tool, but it's been around for like 50 years and only now it's become mainstream. So
I know it's, I know machine learning's only a part of AI, but we've been using Xero since 2013, I think, and they have that built in. Dext, or Receipt Banks, it used to be, has machine learning built in. It's all in there already. So yeah, we're all actually using it, but perhaps not realizing it.
yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question based on something you've got on your LinkedIn profile. So the question is, should you, as a business owner, charge more? And if yes, how would you go about doing it? Which is a very broad question, I know.
Well, I'm going to be talking on this at Accountex next month. But yes, I very much believe that you should be charging what you're worth. As business owners, we should have more than just a salary, because we're taking on the big business risk as well. We need to charge enough to allow us to do a good job. If you're sort of keeping your fees too low, you don't have the, as accountants, a lot of what we do is based on time. And if you're just trying to churn out accounts as quickly as you can to keep the price down for your clients, I hope it would still be of a reasonable quality, but all you do is keep them legal. Whereas I like to be able to prepare the accounts, look at the business, see how we can improve it, things like that. So hopefully offer a lot more value just by increasing the price a bit. So yes, I believe, I mean, don't rip people off by any means, but I'd much rather provide a high value service for a slightly higher price.
Okay.
And I want the professional pride in doing a good job. I don't want to just churn out accounts. That would be boring.
So what you said, in my opinion, it should be the standard, but unfortunately it's not. And in the time that I've been in this industry, it's about 5 or 6 years, it's still an ongoing conversation. What do you think the barrier to adoption or change is? Because I listen to people like yourself, I know Stuart Hurst, for example. Again, he's very big and you're very big on the value to the client. And everything you say, as someone who's a non-accountant who's tried to start a business in the past, it sounds like that's what I want an accountant to do. But a lot of accountants don't do that. In your opinion, why do you think it's not transformed to that level yet?
I think accountants, a lot of people in accountancy, they want to serve their clients. That there's a huge service ethic, which is brilliant. But we also tend to overstep that into, we don't want to charge them too much. So you need to be confident that what you're doing is what they need. And it's the same with sales. I'd be a rotten salesperson, but I'm really good at matching our services to people who need them. And that's a very different sales conversation. And
I think that makes you a very good salesperson, to be honest. That's what good salespeople do.
Yeah, one of the things I did when I worked in industry, as we call it, was I would go out on the road once or twice a year with our sales engineers, get out of my ivory tower of finance and go and see what was happening. Get products you can actually touch and customers you can see across a desk and things like that. But also serving some of the best sales people.
It's so funny you say that, because a lot of people do consider the finance team this ivory tower, these people, this circle of group people who make tons of massive decisions. And if you're not in that inner circle, your department is seen as less than, which I know is not true. But yeah, it's quite funny. I've seen that in many businesses. Sales and finance always butting heads.
Oh, yes. Well, sales and finance, they're different personality types as well. Which,
well, yes. Stereotypically, you've got an accountant who is quite fastidious and risk averse, and stereotypically, you've got a quite outgoing salesperson going, "Let's just make some sales."
Yes.
Yeah.
The optimists, the optimistic salespeople, and then it's not just our personality to be risk averse. We are supposed to be, risk averse, and prudence is one of the fundamental accounting principles that we have to follow, and things like that. So, yes, both by nature and by job, we have to be the opposite of salespeople. But that's great. It means around your boardroom table, you've got such a mixture of people. You get those opinions, and I like working with different people. It's part of the variety.
Have you ever had to butt heads with a sales director? And if so, can you recall a particular instance that you're able to share?
Usually we've got on fine once we've sort of realised.
Okay.
But we're both saying the things, but actually we settle somewhere in the middle ground. So we've had debates, discussions, whatever, but not actually coming head to head. I don't think. I'm trying to think.
Okay, or nothing that you can say on live stream on LinkedIn. Don't want to name names. Savvy. Okay, I've got an idiot question for you. Right, what is a journal? Accountants love them. They're always journaling things over. What does that mean?
It's a way of tidying up the client's books. It's a way of making adjustments that aren't sales invoices, purchase invoices, bank. Pretty much everything else around that is a journal, and they always balance. You have a debit and a credit, because accountants, we're always in harmony, we're always balanced, and so are our journals. At least we try to. We can put in things that aren't reflected in the primary records, the source records of the business. It's probably the slightly complex way. It's just tidying up, housekeeping.
Well, you say that, but like for a layman like me, is that not the strength or the ability of an accountant, right? The idea is actually they move these figures in the accounts to make the necessary adjustments to make the business either appear its best or present as best it can do, or for tax efficiencies, or for other reasons, for planning, right? And the reason why I say that is because I'm a big fan of good accountants, and I've met some very bad ones, by the way, and I've met some very good ones. And I think lots of good accountants don't explain what you've just explained, and actually that's why some clients don't necessarily see the value. Like the ability of that person to see those figures and move them in the right, safe, and legal way of doing so, very important. Because anyone can move numbers around. But I don't know. I think it's very important to clarify that.
Yeah, I think that, every business has a story, and that there's the financial aspect of that, and the accounts need to represent that story, which is why we need to speak to our clients. And make sure that their accounts do tell the story of their business. And journals are just one tool to do that. It's a bit like the editor coming along at the end of writing your book. and some books need more editing than others, but we make sure the story gets out there.
Okay, 2 questions relating to books. I'll circle back to the second one. First of all, what's the difference between a bookkeeper and an accountant?
There's an awful lot of overlap. You get bookkeepers who do accounts, you get accountants who do bookkeeping. Very broadly, the bookkeeper gets the information into the account system.
Mm-hmm.
They create order out of chaos. They are fabulous. They do the really difficult, messy bit. And then the accountants swan in at the end of the year or the end of the month, whatever, apparently. But we can then start with this beautiful bookkeeping and then add the bits that tell the story. So it's a bit like taking it from, you've got the facts, and then we'll make sure it really is, a good book, and it tells what we want it to tell, what's really going on.
Second question about books. You are an author. Which is your favorite book you've written?
My favorite book I've written? Oh.
Because they're all good, but like, which is the one you enjoyed? Like, what's the one you enjoyed working on the most, and why?
It's like asking me which is my favorite child.
I know the answer to that one already. As a parent, it's the one that least pisses you off at the time. Fact.
Yes,
you're not supposed to say your favorites, but generally it's the one that's least annoying at the time.
Yeah. Well, I'm lucky. I've got a son and a daughter, so I have a favorite boy and a favorite girl. It's a lot simpler that way.
Oh, I've only got the one, so she's always my favorite, but that's neither here nor there.
Oh, there you go.
I've spoken to other parents and I ask them, which one's your favorite, and they say whichever one least annoys me at that time.
Yeah. So, favorite book. Well, the first one, The Numbers Business: How to Grow a Successful Cloud Accountancy Practice. That was my very first book, and it was one of those things. I'd always been a numbers person. Age of 11, I won a maths scholarship, went off to boarding school, got put a year ahead because of my maths ability, and so on. And I didn't do that much writing because I did sciences and maths for A-level, and I did a chemistry degree. So when I sold my first business, I had all this information in my head, and I needed to capture it before I forgot it all, because I have the memory of a flip-flop. So I wanted to write it down, and I had a friend who's a publisher, and we had a conversation to see, is this just, I'm going to write a Word document for myself, so I've got it. Can I write a cheap ebook that'll help other people, or is it actually something valuable that people will pay for? And we decided it was actually valuable stuff that people would pay for, and also award-winning stuff, as it turned out. But so that is, I went along to the Business Book Awards. I'm not quite sure why I entered, but I entered, and I was, they had the shortlist announcements up in London in a hotel with free, not champagne, but sparkling
Prosecco.
And whatever. I thought I'll just go up, and I was completely amazed to be shortlisted, and I was it just floored me. And then I booked a table at the awards dinner itself to celebrate being shortlisted. I was so pleased. I was celebrating being shortlisted, and I was sort of, we had a nice dinner, and I was knocking back the wine because I was celebrating when
you weren't expecting to win.
No, exactly. And my publisher was sat next to me, and she said, did you know the award winners had to give an acceptance speech? I sort of, oh yes, and she made me swap my wine for water. She says she didn't know, but I'm not quite sure. But yeah, the special.
If she did know, surely she should have given you a heads up, because you probably wouldn't have drunk so much wine and prosecco had you have known you had to give an acceptance speech, right?
I know. Anyway, I did manage some sort of speech, and I watched the video of it afterwards, and I was not too bad. But yes, giving a fairly spontaneous acceptance thing is interesting. And then they interviewed me on camera afterwards.
Yep.
Which,
Maintained your composure?
yeah, well, it's a little bit. Oh, I'm not tearful even thinking about it. As a numbers person, winning a writing thing was bizarre. So, of course, set a second book.
Yeah.
You then have an expectation, and awards-wise, second book just flopped.
At times.
But it's still very good, and it's something. It's intended for business owners rather than for an accountant. So we give copies to our clients, our business owner clients, and then the third one is another topical thing for accountants. It's business advisory, so changing the numbers.
That is very topical, because a lot of people are talking about business advisory at the moment, and it's a really broad term. Right?
It is. So the first thing you do is you have to define it, or at least help people to understand what they mean by it. Yeah.
I'm gonna say something very controversial, by the way.
Always do.
I'm glad you've written the book. I'm glad more accountants are doing business advisory. And the reason being, again, in my experience, in my time in business, there have been people out there who call themselves business advisors, consultants, or coaches, and they are absolute trash as human beings. Let's say that. That's a really harsh thing to say. They don't have the knowledge on how to run a business, or they don't have the knowledge how to read a balance sheet. I'm not saying you have to be an accounting wizard to know these things, but I think accountants are generally, or bookkeepers and accountants are generally best placed to be business advisors. Generally speaking, if they've got real-time information, they are seeing the information that clients have and are able to interpret it into a format that clients can understand. It would make sense for the accountant bookkeeper to do that, because the good business advisors and consultants I work with are often speaking to their bookkeepers and accountants and asking for those figures so they can then interpret. So yeah, it makes sense for accountants and bookkeepers to kind of start doing it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with you. I've seen some appalling so-called
consultants or coaches.
I've seen some very good ones as well. I have to say, I wouldn't damn the whole lot of business advisors, coaches, whatever. But yeah, if you can combine an accountant's skill set with that coaching and advisory skill set, it's just so good, and that's what I aspire to do. With varying degrees of success.
Well, you can. What's the saying? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? So we've got clients where we advise stuff and they just ignore it and things don't go well. So it is what it is. I need to ask you a silly question because we've been too serious for too long.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
Okay. What old person thing do you don't realise you do?
Old person thing.
Yeah.
I would say I was born at the age of 40. I was raised as the eldest child. I'm not actually the eldest child. I've got a half sister who came to live with us when I was 11, 12. But I was raised as the oldest child, so I've always been the responsible, boring one.
The responsible, boring one.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there one specific old person thing that you do though?
Old people. When I get up out of a chair, I've realised I've started to make noises as I get up out of the chair.
That's fair enough. I mean, I'm not at that stage yet. The one old person thing that I do is I will listen to Radio 1 and not recognise any of the artists. Like there's a time when I used to know everyone on the top 100, and now I'm just like, I don't know who this is. Nor do I like their music.
See, I'm sort of the opposite, because I'm not particularly into music, but one of my team back when we had an office used to have Heart FM on in the office, and it would always be, whenever I'd go into his office, I remember this, and Heart FM was playing all the old stuff, so it was absolutely brilliant. But also, my kids are listening to that. 80s music is my era, and my kids love it. I'd like to think it's because the 80s stuff was good, but I've got a whole load of sentiment attached to it, because that's when I was growing up.
What's the one thing from the 80s that if you could bring back bring out now? What would you bring back?
What would I bring back?
Yeah.
My figure. Apart from that, there were good things, but we've moved on from that. But back in the 80s, I was in better shape. I didn't have kids, so would I trade my figure for my kids? But absolutely, I've got two fabulous, adults now. So
I thought you were going to say something like, I don't know, a TV show or a type of food that's been discontinued. But all right, that's cool.
well, there's other good stuff sort of replaces it. So whatever. Yeah.
This is true. This is true. So what is your latest book called?
The latest one is Changing the Numbers.
Let me zoom out. Hold on. There we go. Right, let's zoom in on you. There we go. Boom.
Yeah, we have a copy. There we go. Which is how to deliver advisory services for maximum success. So it sort of talks about what is advisory, and then the types of things that you might class as advisory. Because often you talk to accountants about business advisory, and they give tax advice, which is an important element of business advice, but it's far from the whole thing. Or they might advise people on how to get finance for their business. But I say it's much broader. It covers the marketing, the sales, the technology you use. There's so much. And as accountants, we're often various surveys show we are the trusted advisor of small businesses. So they come to us. I think it's because they don't know who else to ask.
Well, it's because the information that you have is quite sensitive. Like I know from my sales background, if I really wanted to sell to a company, and if I could get my hands on their numbers and see what's actually going on, I could sell really easily because I can know what's actually happening. Unfortunately, companies' house don't give us all that information. They're like a giant corporate entity. So, but yeah, it's the figures are the things that make accountants so trusted.
Yeah, and so they trust us. Well, they also trust us a lot with their personal stuff as well. I feel like a counsellor sometimes.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. We've had clients who are going through divorces and separations, and they've got businesses. Yeah, it becomes quite emotional.
Yeah, with owner managed businesses, they're so intertwined, and that's why when we take on a new client, I always start off by asking them what their personal ambitions are. Because when I coach, the number of accountants that I coach who come to me telling me they want a £1 million business, and you sort of go down into it, and actually it's an arbitrary number they've just plucked out of the air. What they need is enough to live comfortably and still get home and put their kids to bed. So it's finding out what they really want, not what they initially say they want. And then we can work together either as a coach or as an accountant, whichever, help them get there. I love that. I really like that. My first business, the strapline was bean growers, not just bean counters.
Very good. Play on words.
I really think we achieved that with some of our clients. Not all by any means. Some of them were too small, or they didn't have that sort of ambition, and any number of reasons. But we were able to take that journey with a lot of clients.
Okay, with the next question, I'm going to kind of put it to you. Would you like me to ask you a serious business-related question, or shall I ask you a silly question?
Oh, ask a silly one. I do serious all the time.
Okay. Okay, this one's not too silly. Outside of work, what do you do for fun?
For fun, I do triathlons when I'm feeling active. So I swim, bike, and run. I did an Ironman distance, not a branded Ironman. It's a bit like saying Coca-Cola when you mean cola. But it was flipping hard work all the same, even without the branding.
Remind me again, an Ironman is like the 3, and it's like a marathon,
bike run,
10
so
miles.
You swim 3.2 kilometers, you cycle 180 kilometers, and then you run or walk, jog, a marathon at the end if you're me.
Why? As someone who hates cardio, why?
It's one of those things. I wanted to get fit after having kids, and a friend and I started running, and I did too much too soon, injured my knee, and we got a swimming pool in the village. So, and one of my many things, I was a swimming teacher when I was at university, so I enjoy swimming. I'm also an athletics coach. I coach running, amongst other disciplines. So I started to swim as well. And then one of my friends was triathlon coach, said, "Oh, you could just, get on a bike as well and do a triathlon. There's this one I think it was in August."
I love how your friend made it sound so casual, by the way.
Yes, yeah. Well, you're doing two, why not do the third? So I didn't do it that August, but I did do it the following year. And I like it because I like the variety, and it uses, when you run a business, you don't have that much in the way of routine. So it's good, if I'm able to, I will train several days in a row. And I can rotate the disciplines. So, it's running is predominantly legs, cycling is all legs, and the swimming is predominantly arms. And then you go to the gym and do whatever else needs doing to strengthen you in between. So I like the variety. So I've never done more than 8 days without a natural rest day. So that's the longest streak I managed. So I don't build in rest days; they just happen naturally. And sometimes, I don't do anything for nearly a week because I'm at meetings or speaking or whatever, and life has just got busy. So I like the variety. So when I'm not doing that, I read trashy books.
Oh, how trashy are we talking?
Historical novels, science fiction, fantasy.
See, because when you said trashy, I immediately thought of 50 Shades of Grey, which I've never read. Have you read it?
Read that one? Yeah, all three of them.
What confused me when that came out, right? I didn't understand the hype because it's not the first book of its nature to be written.
No.
Like it's not the first ever, I don't know, what semi-erotic novel.
Yeah.
I don't understand the hype. Was it a good read?
Yeah, it was, good. Yeah, better than some of the similar things that come out. But like you're not quite sure why it suddenly became popular fiction, as opposed to just sticking in the erotica niche or whatever it's called.
And I think I just interrupted. Did you say you also you read sci-fi as well?
Yes.
Oh, do you have a favorite sci-fi book or novel?
Well, and I watch it as well. At the moment, we're watching Star Trek Next Generation. Almost at the end of that. So it's a case of, do we watch the next one, or do we go and watch something like Red Dwarf, which again is from the 80s. So
no, I'm currently rewatching DS9 and Voyager. In fact, I just finished DS9. I'm now watching Voyager. Yeah, good shows. I didn't know you were a Trekkie. Good to know.
Well, you sort of watch bits and pieces. When I was a kid, I watched loads of the original Star Trek. And apparently there are only something like 56 episodes or something.
No, there's not a ton of them, no.
Yeah.
With William Shatner's amazing acting.
Yes, and the sets, the cardboard sets.
Oh, mate, it was all imagination. It was all imagination.
Yeah, and if you look back on some of the old Doctor Who's as well, those sets, those cardboard sets, and yet we believed it. I used to, sort of watch the Daleks through my fingers as a kid sometimes, which was nothing compared to Blink that came out more recently. Blimey, that terrified me. It didn't terrify, but it was one of those things that you sort of gives you the creeps for.
No, I'm with you. I remember watching Doctor Who as a kid, being scared of it, and I watched it. And I'm like, I was scared of a tin can, a literal garbage can
with a sink plunger.
Yep.
But that's acting, isn't it? And the power of the mind as well. I prefer to read rather than to watch, because I mean, my imagination is so much better than some
100%.
directors, whatever they are, because it's stuff that's credible to me. But yeah, I do like watching other people's versions of things sometimes.
I do enjoy it, but again, like you, I think my imagination is better. So if it's not the way I imagined it, I get upset, which I know is unfair on the creator. But
yeah, I'd rather watch the film first before reading the book, because if I've read the book, it's all in my head, and it will never match. And what would be Wheel of Time? That is,
I read those books.
The series. The book is the series of books are just very, very different.
So as a fantasy,
it gets further away as well. They diverge further in the next series.
As a fantasy geek, I've read almost all the classic fantasy series, and Wheel of Time is actually my least favorite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know, controversial. But you're right, the TV show is insanely different to the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I've stopped the reading at the point of the TV series. So
If you get the chance and you're up for if you're up for a very not hard read, a long read, there's a book called Gardens of the Moon by an author called Stephen Erickson, and it's part of the main 10 books. That's right, 10 books are novels, and then he co-wrote it with his friend called Ian Cameron Esamont, and basically they're two anthropologists, archaeologists that studied at university years ago, and they've written this suite of books. There's like almost 30 books in the series, but the world is massive. It's ridiculous. But it's not a stereotypical fantasy book. It's not just like so and so has a sword and they're the chosen one. Like it's really complex.
Yeah,
I
a whole
recommend it.
world behind it. I do like that where they've got the whole world. I'll look out for that one. Yeah, and I'm listening to Game of Thrones on Audible as well. That's been really weird because I read the book first and then the TV series came out, and then I read some more books in the middle, and then I watched the last two series on a flight to and from the States. And so I thought I'd just listen to it all in one go. I say all in one go. Each book is something like 50 hours. So,
but I don't know about you, but I find it easier to listen than to read. I like reading, but I find I miss things when I read. I don't know, lapse of concentration. But when I'm listening, I hear more things. But yeah, the ending of Game of Thrones TV show, not happy about that.
No, I actually got rid of the DVDs in the end. Just
out of outrage and protest. Star Trek.
It was just, I sort of watched them and thought, no, I'm not going to watch them again. But no, I'm the opposite. I'm much more a visual person. I read better than I listen. Again, if you'd asked me my superpower, I'd say it's my concentration. That's because I'm not interrupted by audio things, and I don't have music on in the office because I just don't hear it.
Huh. See, I find I have music on if I'm doing a very boring, repetitive task. That's why I need music. If I'm doing something that requires concentration, can't have music.
Yeah, no, I'm not distracted by it, which is, because I don't hear it somehow. I seem to have virtual earplugs.
Okay, we should probably bring it back to business.
Oh yes, sorry.
We have meandered. That's my fault. I'm not going to lie. So you are one of the top 50 women in finance in the UK and top 100 women in finance in the world. Is that right?
Yes, something like that, which is always interesting. I'm sure there are much better women out there, but my name happened to be picked out. And part of it is just being visible enough to be selected for these things.
I was just about to ask, how did that come about? But you just answered that question.
Yeah, I was visible and they liked what I did.
Do you think women should have a separate category within finance for being the top, or should it be just a mixed? I don't know. I've lost my words.
Yeah, I think at the moment we need to have these separate categories to encourage women and increase our visibility. We're a very male-dominated profession, and although it is diversifying a bit more, the top slots are still pale male. Not necessarily stale. I wouldn't go that far, but
I would say not all of them are stale.
No, and that's not necessarily a reflection on their ability, but there are equally good women out there, possibly better, who just aren't there because they're not spotlighted in the same way. And I think, like I said, I think boards benefit by having sort of the sales personality and the accountant's personality as well as their different knowledge. You need the different, traits that come, the way sort of different people think, and that is, those differences are broader between male and female and different sort of racial backgrounds, things like that. So we need to get everybody represented. I know you'd have a huge boardroom table the size of the world, so let's be practical, but trying to make sure that we do get enough diversity to get different voices in there.
Cool. Next important question. A lot of accounting firm owners and practices are often talking about a shortage in good talent. Is this something that you yourself experience in your practice? And if so, do you think it's a problem? And how do you think it could be resolved?
I keep hearing the same thing. It hasn't affected us yet. It might be that we have lots of people applying to us anyway. And part of that is because I'm visible. People will often be in touch, sending their CVs in. So I get a lot of people applying even when I don't have vacancies. So I get to cherry pick.
A nice humble brag there. Yeah, everyone's applying to me.
Yeah,
that's not what you said. That's not what you said.
I'm visible for good or ill. So I'm just somebody they can approach. But I think I'm also we don't at the moment, but we've previously had trainees, apprentices. And I'm happy to put the time in to train a younger person, usually, to do things, to give them those opportunities. Now, we benefit because we don't have to take in somebody who's been trained in a more traditional firm and get them to unlearn that in order to work our way. So
interesting.
We benefit.
I don't know if you can go into the detail, but when you say unlearn the traditional way, like what is the traditional way, and what have they got to unlearn?
All sorts of. I think a lot of firms, they focus on getting the numbers out and they forget about the story bit of it. They just see the business as a set of numbers. I think we can do so much more. We train our people to look for opportunities for ways they can help the client with the business advice, things like that. So we don't just keep them legal. We do more for them. We use technology, and I see a lot of people, they finally move on to Xero, but they do things on Xero the same way they've always done them. And for instance, when we first started using Dext with Xero, in the receipt bank days. I'm showing my age as receipt bank.
No, I've still got a receipt bank gilet, a much coveted receipt bank gilet.
Wow. Yeah, it was nice to see some of the original receipt bank team were at the digital accountancy show with a new app. I'd say translucent, but I may be wrong.
Translucent was there. Yep.
Anyway, so yeah, nice to. But people who say, "Oh, I can do things faster than you can with Dext," because they're uploading it, sitting, waiting for it, and then what we used to do is, post comes in, PA scans all the invoices, so for all the clients, and then the bookkeeper deals with that and gets it into Xero for all the clients. So you don't work on one client at a time. You change your process and you do it by task rather than by just one example. But it's just rethinking it. I set up a business that produces accounts. It's not an accountancy business. It's run first and foremost as a business, and the product is accounts and business advice. And hopefully happy, successful business owners.
Savvy.
Yeah, only they all work.
Another less businessy question. What are the last 3 things that were on your Spotify, YouTube, or other streaming service playlist? What last 3 songs you listened to?
So Spotify is almost certainly musical theatre. My kids got into musical theatre. They sang at a very high standard. That's sort of one of the sad things of COVID for us, and in a way, it's some. We're lucky it's the saddest thing. But they were due to sing the 26th of March 2020. They were due to sing with their choir in the Carnegie Hall in New York.
Oh wow!
A chance in a lifetime.
Yeah, that's next level.
That will never happen again. But that's the worst thing that happened to us with COVID. So it could be an awful lot worse. So my kids sing that, and I do a little bit of singing. So I sing for myself. I do not sing publicly.
I wasn't going to ask you, like that would be a ridiculous thing to ask someone to do on a live stream. I mean, I have sung on live streams, but only for jokes, not for reals.
Yes, no, I enjoy it. It's something I do, and it's something that takes just enough concentration that it forces me to relax and stop thinking about work and so on. But it's still pleasurable to. So yeah, Spotify is probably YouTube. At the moment, we tend to, if it's not the news, it's Dragon's Den, watching some of the really old ones, or Shark Tank, and Ennis Yilmazar shows these huge multi-million-pound mansions. And you look at them and go, it's too impersonal. Even if I had all that money, I wouldn't. So I'm just going to have somewhere for a few million, not tens of millions. I know that. I now know there's a limit to my aspirations.
When I watch shows like that, I often think to myself, and this is me in my limited capacity, I think, man, the heating bill must be insane. That's my first thought. Like the upkeep, it's not just the cost of the house. It's also like that's gonna be a lot of money to keep.
Well, we've got that at the moment because we're selling the family home, which is a huge thing because it's on the main road. Which, when you're running an accountancy practice, you want your offices fronting on the main road. Mm-hmm. But when you're just using it as a house, you get an awful lot of house for your money, and then, as you say, the maintenance bills, the heating bills, because it's an older house, so it's
yeah. What advice would you give to a younger person looking to enter the accounting space?
I should have prepared something on this because I love doing careers talks and things like that. And it's just looking through my diary, and next week I'm doing some employability interviews at the local school. But somebody thinking of getting into accountancy, there's so much that you can do with it. You can work in industry for one company, in a finance department for one company. You can work in practice where you get to see loads and loads of different businesses. You might want to do all the technical stuff, because a lot of people get into it because they like maths and so on. I went into accountancy. I wanted to do something that had maths, computers, and people. So even back in a long time ago, I say I got my first two jobs because I knew how to turn on a computer. So it's not surprising we use so much tech now. But yeah, make sure you've got the communication skills. Unless you are back office, you have to liaise with clients, and that means either in a written report or a face-to-face or online meeting, you need to be able to talk through that story of the business. So you need to listen to them, what the story is, and then explain to them the story that the accounts are showing if that doesn't tie in with what they think is happening in their business. Yeah, but people who sell making a loss at a gross margin, so basically the more they sell, the more they lose. But they haven't realised it. So we need to be able to communicate that in a way that they will understand, and then help them to do something about it.
That is really good advice. Thank you. I realise I've asked you a lot of questions, and we're going to wrap things up in the next couple of minutes. Do you have any questions for me?
No. Oh, okay. No. Why did you start doing these podcasts?
Honestly, I was bored.
That's the reason for so many things, isn't it?
Yeah. No. So yeah, it was lockdown. Didn't have much. I had extra time to do stuff. I was like, let's just do this. And they didn't start off as business related. It was just me talking to people I knew on LinkedIn, and about anything. Like, I've kind of made them more business focused, but the original theme was about superheroes and comic books. Like, it was just absolute stuff. And then as I've grown in popularity and more people want to come on, I'm like, let's make it a bit more business focused. So yeah, it was mostly boredom. I enjoy talking to people, and one person in particular, I'll give her a shout out, Vicky Poole. I'll tag her in afterwards. She encouraged me, said, Dale, you've got a really nice voice, you should use it more. And I went, oh, okay. So yeah, if one person encouraging me, and I was bored.
Yeah. I think you should have just started another business. That's what I do.
I mean, it's tempting. It's very tempting. I'm sure my boss is watching this. Cool. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Like I say this to
My
everybody, but like
pleasure.
it only works if you come and talk. Otherwise, it's just me talking to myself. So thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you for the great answers. Thank you for the insights, and thank you for sharing some of your personality.
Well, thank you very much. I'm not sure you could say I've got a personality when I'm an accountant. Do I get thrown out of the institute for things like that?
I mean, you might have done 20 years ago, but now it's all the rage, right? Accountants with personality, it's a thing.
Okay.
Cool.
I'll remember. I'll do a tap dance on the table next time.
So I'm going to hit end stream. There's like a 2-second delay, so just smile for a little bit, and then we'll go
Okay.
offline. Thank you everyone else who watched as well. Cheers.
Okay.